this. But I believe it is also good for the wider public to understand that there's a law, but there are also guidelines that protect innovators and creators of solutions, systems, even hardware. So I request to end here on behalf of the police, and believe that we should have a good day. Let's be candid, let's be honest, but also let's be open to learning. This is part of the learning, so that we optimize the time that we are going to be here and leave when we are better people. I never stop, as old as I am, you can imagine, I never stop learning. So I'm also looking forward to learning. And therefore, on behalf of peers, may God bless us all, and may we have a good day. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Mr. Wetesa Moses. Thank you so much, Commissioner. That was such an informative speech. So, now that the Commissioner has set the momentum for the meeting, we should do a round of introductions before we hear from Mr. Gilbert. We'll start from here.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Dear Commissioner, and Luana and members present, and Luana James Tony, representing the Director of Intellectual Property, Mr. Agaba Gilbert, but my substantive role, I'm the Manager for Patents and Industrial Designs at the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. Thank you, and it's nice to be here.
Good morning. My name is Agate Abraham Munyait. I'm the Senior Patent Examiner at Uganda Registration Services Bureau.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kenneth Muhanj. I am an advocate and partner at KT Advocates and also an intellectual property practitioner. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Mumbi. I work with Uganda Industrial Research Institute as an intellectual property administrator.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Pius Rahel. I'm an advocate working with 4G Capital, and I also teach at Makerere Law School.
Good morning. My name is Ivan from JICA, Uganda, with the private sector development portfolio. I bring regards from our senior representative, who will be joining us a bit later when he'll be late. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ruth Mbabazi. I'm with JICA.
Good morning, all of you. I'm Philip Mulindwa. I'm a founder and innovator at the Innovation Hub here.
Good morning. I'm Sinde Felix Mbabazi, an associate professor of information technology. I'm the Dean of Faculty of Computing at Uganda University, and happen to be the focal contact person for the Regional ICT Innovation Hub at Uganda University.
Good morning, everyone. Martin Bati is my name, student Makerere. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Goreti Nabia. I'm an administrator and personal assistant to the Honorable Minister of State for ICT.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carol Nyangoma Mukisa. I serve at Clean Hearts Foundation, a civil society organization. Besides that, I'm an advocate and gender expert.
Good morning. I'm called Ernest Miraza. I work as the team lead for Send.me, so a local company that does for social good. Thanks.
Good morning to you all. My name is Paul Matanda. I'm Communication Officer at the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance.
Good morning. My name is Ken Stover. I'm the CEO of Simplify Networks. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Annex Kemanzi, and I where we work on data design and technology to improve the experiences of people, but to also help the government to make better decisions. And I'm glad to be a part of this engagement.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Engineer Ben Ngisha. I'm the Head of Department of Computer Science at Makerere University.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gideon Kruminji. I'm the CEO of the ICT Association of Uganda. Happy to be here. morning, everyone. My name is Penina Susan Igaga. I'm an advocate, and today I'm in my capacity as a legal tech consultant. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. All protocol observed. My name is Patrick Mugisha. And people call me Mugi, which is good. So just call me Mugi. It's a trademark. So it's it has to really. So I'm here in two capacities. One, co-founder for Innovate Labs Africa, which largely supported the process, courtesy of invitation from Ministry of ICT. But then also, formerly I was the Commissioner in charge of Innovations and Intellectual Property Management, former Ministry of Science, the kind of innovation now defunct. But STA is not dead with the Secretariat. And currently, I sit as a Commissioner at Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperative, but in charge of Business Development and Quality Assurance. So I'm back in government. So thank you. Yeah.
We should have done introductions, I think, before, so I should have acknowledged these big people. Commissioner. And the professor and professor of the academia, thank you so much for coming, because you impact the knowledge and the skills. So we really fully do recognize you, and we are happy that you are here with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for the introductions. Now that we've got to know each other, I will invite Mr. James on behalf of the Director for Intellectual Property, URSB. Mr. James, you're welcome to keynote speech. A round of applause for Mr. James.
Thank you, Sandra. The representative of the PS, the Commissioner from Ministry of Trade, representatives from JICA, officials from different government agencies represented here, representatives from the private sector, academia, our innovators. Good morning to you all. Like I indicated before, I am Uganda James Tony, and I serve as the manager for patents and industrial designs at the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. It is my great honor to address you at this significant gathering, but allow me to extend regards from Uganda Registration Services Bureau, particularly our Registrar General and our Director Intellectual Property. And I wish to convey apologies from the Director, who was not able to be with us today because of other engagements. But I remember very well last year, both the Registrar General and the Director were very active in this engagement. URSB remains steadfast in its commitment to fostering Uganda's innovation ecosystem, aligning with the national development priorities. That is the NDP3, which the Commission talked about, but of course also to the broader vision 2040. These national frameworks emphasize enhancing private sector competitiveness through research, innovation, and industrialization. It is in this spirit that we celebrate today's milestone by the Ministry of ICT with the launch of the guidelines for managing intellectual property rights for locally developed ICT solutions. These guidelines will definitely empower our grassroots ICT innovators to be able to create and deploy transformative digital solutions. Uganda's vision of digital transformation roadmap.
The ICT sector, like the Commissioner indicated, in Uganda continues to be a pillar of economic transformation. It's not only one of the fastest growing sectors, but also a crucial enabler of progress across other industries. And this is clearly articulated in our budget framework paper, which highlights how, for example, agro-industrialization, tourism, mineral-based industrialization must integrate emerging ICT technologies to be able to enhance service delivery. We are also able to witness the launch of the Innovate and Protect Intellectual Property Management Toolkit. And this is a vital step in equipping innovators with the knowledge and tools necessary to safeguard their creations. Intellectual property is the backbone of any knowledge-based economy, without which innovation is vulnerable. And therefore, we are appreciative to the Ministry of ICT for this initiative. And I'm sure the people are going to take us through the guidelines, because we have the policy, Mr. Commissioner. We have the different legal regimes. And I'm very happy, which cover different aspects of innovation. And I'm very happy the Commissioner from Trade, our colleagues from KTA, they know the scan of the IP legal regime in Africa. Surprisingly, Uganda is one of the countries in Africa on the continent with a robust legal regime. We've tried to ensure that all aspects of innovation can actually be protected within this country. Now, the guidelines on different aspects come to be able to clarify, when you are dealing with ICT innovations, what do you need to do to ensure that all the gaps are effectively covered. And we appreciate the roles that our colleagues, the KTA, the colleagues at Innovate Labs are doing to support the ministry to ensure that we can be able to have the guidelines that are going to be launched today. URSP, as Uganda's National Intellectual Property Office, and the coordinating body for the implementation of the National Intellectual Property Policy, has implemented several strategic interventions to bolster the ICT innovation ecosystem. Mr. Commissioner. Mr. Commissioner, we are very active as far as capacity building programs are concerned in this country. And many of the beneficiaries, I see them in the room. And URSP, as a government agency, is intentional that we don't only build capacity at URSP. In as much as myself, Abraham, are IP experts, it requires an expert in ICT to be able to directly articulate issues that relate to ICT innovations. The same relates to tourism. You need somebody who understands that sector to be able to come up with such guidelines that address the specific needs to ensure that all the gaps are covered. The same relates to health. The same relates to education. The same relates to all the ministries, all the different sectors that we have. And therefore, we are very happy that ICT has really done this today. So we are also keen on partnerships with different agencies. I had academia represented here, R&D institutions, our colleagues from URI, we are very active in those respective institutions for purposes of ensuring that we build capacity in the different institutions. Then policy and then regulatory frameworks to be able to create an enabling environment for innovators. Mr. Commissioner, I want to remind you that the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance is one of the key members of the National IP Policy Steering Committee, and we are very happy that it has taken the lead in developing customized IP guidelines for the ICT sector. And I think this is something we need to apply applaud ourselves for. Because under the National Intellectual Property Policy, the policy recognizes that in as much as URSB is the national IP office and the coordinating body for the policy, we don't generate any innovations. Innovations come from the different sectors that we have. It recognizes that for us to be able to have an effective innovation ecosystem, everyone has a role to play. The academia, the different agencies, the civil society. When you are coming up with the policy, of course, you need to consult the civil society. Everyone has a role to play. So now we have these guidelines, and we are happy that ICT, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, is the one which is taking the lead, at least out of the many members of the steering committee. URS is proud to support this effort, not only as the National IP Office, but also as an enabler of innovation, ensuring that groundbreaking ideas from Uganda's tech sector are protected. And this aligns well with the fourth industrial revolution strategy, which the government formulated, of course, led by the Ministry of ICT, to harness emerging technologies for national development. Uganda's efforts to build a robust innovation system are also in sync with the African Union's Agenda 2063, which envisions Africa as an innovation-led economy. Additionally, the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, presents an opportunity for Ugandan innovators to scale their solutions to a market of over 1.3 billion. And I would like to say something. The Commissioner rightly indicated that there are some people who are interested to protect their innovations beyond the boundaries of Uganda. That is very true. And the law is structured in such a way that you can choose protect nationally. Say no for me, because protection is territorial. When you choose protect in Uganda, you have national protection. Then when you feel that your innovation could have market beyond the boundaries of Uganda, you can say, no, my protection could have application in Rwanda, could have application in Southern Sudan, could have application in Kenya. The system, the national system has a framework where you can tap into the regional system by filing your application through the Ugandan office. You designate those countries, so you don't need to be flying around. So we don't want the legal regime so that say, no, somebody cannot be able to seek protection in Kenya. The law provides for that arrangement through the national office, and you can get protection in the respective areas in which you want to seek protection. That is the, for some of you who have heard about ARIPO, the African Regional Protection, the African Regional Intellectual Property Organization. But for you to get protection through that regional system, because Uganda is party to that treaty, you can apply being supported by the National IP Office. And then you also have people who wish to protect beyond the boundaries of Africa. That is the international system through the World Intellectual Property Organization. And again, because Uganda is part of that arrangement, you can apply and seek for protection in Japan, but being assisted from here. You don't have to face that inconvenience and, of course, the cost of moving to whichever areas in which you want to seek for protection. I really wanted that to come out. So, because at the end of the day, we want to ensure that our innovations can be able to benefit from the wider available market. And that speaks to novelty, which the Commissioner was trying to allude to, that somebody thinks by stealing this innovation, then you wrap it nicely, URSB will give you a certificate. Quite rarely. Because the guidelines, the requirements are very clear for you to have protection. In as much as The law also allows you to tweak a little, okay? Provided that tweak is very clear so that it can be attributed to you. Because we don't want to also, we know that most of our innovations come from improvements of what is already existing. Because if I task all the innovators in the room and I say, let us come up with something new. No, what I'm going to come up with will be an improvement of what is existing, such that we give you now protection for that improvement, but not through stealing. And the system promotes that. And it promotes technology transfer. So strong IP protection mechanisms, such as these guidelines, ensure that our innovators can expand beyond Uganda's borders with their ideas safeguarded and their businesses empowered. URSP, as URSP, we firmly believe that IP rights must serve as enablers of innovation, and our goal is to ensure that we equip innovators with the right information needed to secure their creations and be able to attract investment. That is another area. As a country, we are struggling to ensure that we increase the number of innovations that can qualify for protection. But even after protection, what are we doing for these innovators? How do we ensure that these protected inventions can actually be able to attract investment? Because if somebody comes up with a formula for a vaccine, do they, as individuals, have capacity to implement that invention at the end of the day? So how do we position our inventors such that the inventions that they come up with are actually able to attract investment and ultimately scale these inventions into small businesses? These guidelines complement the National IP Policy of 2019, which envisions a Uganda where innovation and creativity stimulate sustainable development. URSP is implementing IP-related projects, such as the Technology and Innovation Support Center Initiative. This is a project which is run in collaboration with the World Intellectual Property Organization, and it is intended to provide innovators with free access to patent and non-patent literature with the objective of improving the quality of research. This is an area where we really need to improve. On many occasions, dear Commissioner, we receive people excited about their innovations, where they've put a lot of time, where they've put a lot of resources. On the 50th year, they hear that there's something to do with intellectual property protection. To come to office and somebody tells you that this was done around the 1970s and over 1 billion people have done the same invention. And that is how we measure novelty. It's not me sitting and saying this is not novel. That's not how we determine. We search what is existing. If you tell me that you've made a microphone, I go into the database. So for me to be able to confirm that it is novel, I shouldn't come across a document that talks about the microphone. It's as simple as that, at least as far as the law requires. So that's why, as URSP, through this Technology Innovation Support Center program, we really want to work closely with the innovators. And we'll be glad if we can be part of this arrangement, so that at the beginning, when somebody is working on something, we can be able to guide them, avail the resources, and these resources are free of charge. So we avail these resources such that our innovators can know what is already existing before they begin on their innovation journey. Dear commissioners and members present, currently we've so far established 37 technology innovation support centers across Uganda, including universities, R&D institutions, and of recent, we are also entering secondary schools in view of the revised curriculum They are focusing on innovation. They are very active in that space. And we are glad that we are able to open a Technology Innovation Support Center at Komboni College, Lira, and we are also able to open another one at Dr. Obote College, Lira. Don't ask me why it's only in Lira. Those young innovators surprised us. As we went around universities, they were the first ones to have a small innovation, which is an improvement of what is already existing. And they had something related to solar collectors, and they qualified for utility model. So when we went down, we found that they are not so organized, but they are able to come up with such good, small innovations. And it's quite exciting that people are beginning to think in that direction at such a tender age. We are also active in the informal, because many times we receive this, that is IP only for the intellectuals, because there is intellectual property at the end of the day. It's not only for the intellectuals, and therefore there is also a lot of concern for our informal sector. So we try to reach out to our colleagues in Katwe. We try to look for these informal settings to see what can actually be protected. And we guide them, we avail information. So we are active in availing, in providing awareness campaigns. We support institutions to work on the institutional IP policies. That is also another area where Mr. Muki, I don't know how your new docket will support us in that area. We want to ensure that institutions have their institutional IP policies, and we try to support them on that. I had a colleague from Kabale, we supported Kabale, we supported Makerere University. We are now working with UCU, all these different, Busitema University, we are supporting them. KIU, wherever there is interest, we go there to support them in that regard. And then also, we want to be active in the initiatives that support commercialization. Probably that's when our colleagues from the Ministry of Trade will actually need to support us. After these innovations have been protected, these ICT innovations, how do we support them further to ensure that we end up in the market? And it's important to emphasize that IP is not an end in itself, but it's a means, it is a means to an end. The true impact of intellectual property lies in commercialization, ensuring that protected innovations translate into tangible economic benefits. That's when we shall know that we are making a real impact. It is easy to celebrate the issuance of an IP certificate, but the real challenge lies in taking innovations to the market. If I'm sure we could have gotten an opportunity to hear innovators like the gentleman for Safe Border. When you look at it, after it has been implemented, it looks very simple. But for you to be able to translate that up to something that employs thousands and thousands of people, that is real impact. If we could have many more innovations of that nature, we shall move to middle income status, whether we like it or yes. So, I urge all stakeholders here today to work together to ensure that Uganda's ICT sector is not only innovative, but also strategically protected and commercially viable. And while we commend the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance for championing the adoption of these guidelines, we also look forward to work with you to ensure that we can have tangible outcomes such as increased IP registrations from this sector. We want to see people licensing, meaning that people are interested in the different applications that we come up with, and the greater utilization of these guidelines to be able to protect and scale our innovations. And as I conclude, allow me to highlight URSP's own digital transformation efforts in line with our commitment to ICT adoption, where we have streamlined our IP registration processes, through our strategy of all digital, all online model. And innovators now can be able to apply for IP protection from the comfort of their homes. We've tried to ensure that we work on that to increase access of our services. I thank you for your attention and look forward for meaningful discussions on how we can be able to continue to strengthen Uganda's ICT innovation ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rugwama James. Another round of applause. So let's recognize the presence of Mr. Hideshi, the senior representative of JICA Uganda, who has just joined us. Thank you so much. And kind reminder, please, to scan the QR code and register. It should be going around. There are a few papers going around. Please don't forget to register. So right about now, we are going to have a presentation of the ICT, Intellectual Property Guidelines, with a Q&A from Ms. Shani Gladys Nachedwe, the Senior IT Officer from Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. Welcome, Shani.
Thank you, Sandra. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Valentine's to you all. It is today. And thank you for choosing to spend this morning with us. I'm called Shali Gladys Nachedwe, and in front of us we have booklets of the guidelines, and we're going to go step by step so that we understand what is in here, and as we advocate, utilize them and ensure that we have more registrations, like Mr. James has called upon, that we're doing the right thing by the regulations, but as well as the national frameworks that have been identified. So our presentation is going to follow that layout. We will first of all acknowledge. Acknowledgement is very important because, just like Commissioner Watasa mentioned, these guidelines have been a collective effort by various stakeholders, and we are really pleased to inform you that everybody within this room has participated and contributed to the development of these guidelines. Then we shall look at the background. How did we come up with the guidelines? Why are they in place? What are they embedded upon? And then we shall also look at the various aspects of intellectual property when we talk about ICT. Just like Mr. James mentioned, we are focusing on ICT. That is our area of expertise, and that is where our strengths are. So these guidelines are in line with ICT, and then we shall also establish the various areas. If we talk about IP in ICT, what are we talking about? If we talk about copyright in ICT, what are those aspects? If you have an initiative, an application, which kind of intellectual property are you eligible to register for? We're going to look at the objectives, the scope, the rationale of these guidelines, and then also discuss the aspect of intellectual property management for the innovators. When we talk about ICT, we have two main aspects, hardware and software. When you look at the current landscape within Uganda, in the ICT ecosystem, we have various ICT software products that have been developed. So that is where we're putting a lot of our focus to provide guidance in line with the contracting, software development applications and solutions. Then we'll discuss risk management. You know, when we're discussing transactions, initiatives, development, there is always the aspect of risk. So what are risks in relation to IP? And then what are the solutions that can be provided? We look at the aspect of open source code. For the ICT gurus within this room, you realize that there are a lot of open source code products out there. So how do we handle the IP in line with that? Just like the director has mentioned, when you are developing a solution, you're either adding onto what is already existing, but we also have open products that are out there that have been developed to contribute to the transformation of technology. So we shall discuss that and see how to handle. Procurement will not be forgotten, because in government and when we're talking about various transactions, you need to procure to contract. So how is IP considered, and what are the different levels of procurement? Do we look at IP after the development has been completed? Do we look at IP at contracting? Do we look at it during the procurement process or during the contract, when the contract is running? Lastly, we shall look at issues to do with commercialization. We are advocating for technology transformation. And if you have a solution, when you put it out there for it to be utilized, we believe that you as the initial creator, you as the owner, you should be in position to earn something, whether in terms of acknowledgement, recognition, but then also you could also be in position to earn financially. Aspects to do revenue share will be discussed, and then the role of the Ministry of ICT and national guidance. Mr. Lumumba has mentioned that we have the National Intellectual Property Policy in place. And under this policy, there are various stakeholders that have different roles to play. So what is the role of ICT, and where does ICT come in to support the innovators? And then we'll conclude with the assumptions. Commissioner Waters acknowledged the various stakeholders, but I would also like to acknowledge more and thank these key partners who have really supported us technically as well as financially while we're developing these guidelines. We have JICA, the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, and they have provided with us both technical and financial support while we were developing these guidelines. And that is the reason as to why we have been able to spearhead the development of the sector-led guidelines. So I would like us to give them a round of applause, because they have supported us, and they have also enabled us to ensure that as we are developing these guidelines, they are in line with the international standards. So we got consultants on board that helped us develop and improve on the guidelines. Then we have KT advocates that actually developed the first draft of the guidelines. So they helped us take the leap of faith. And that was a very significant contribution. I would also like us to give a round of applause to them. Thank you so much. Because they did not only give us the first draft, but they have also worked with us along the way. So they have practically handheld us, and that is why we are all here and having a product that we are proud of. We've also got support from URSB, technical support, because as the custodians of intellectual property within our ecosystem, if we do not have the goodwill and support of the National IP Office, which is at URSB, then we cannot do much. So we thank you very much for your support, and all the various key stakeholders. We have our Innovate Lab Africa. They also helped us technically to improve on the quality of these guidelines, because they practically deal with the innovators and the day-to-day issues that are being faced within the innovation ecosystem. The other stakeholders have really been identified within the guideline, the documents, and the acknowledgements, and all of us within this room. So with to consider time, I would like us to move on to the introduction. So the Uganda ICT intellectual property guidelines have been developed in alignment and to strengthen the existing goals and frameworks within the ecosystem. We'll see that the goals, the National Development Plan that has been talked about already, and then the Vision 2040, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, all these aspects are talking about having an inclusive technology-enabled economy. And then how do we do that? How do we grow the ICT ecosystem without supporting more creativity within the ecosystem? So these guidelines, their main principle is to incentivize local talent, foster entrepreneurship, creation of jobs. That is a very key aspect, even within the NRA manifesto, and as well as ensure that there is value for money. So when we talk about value for money, we're talking about things to do with when we contract, for example, a software company to develop a solution within our ecosystem. This money, if it is being paid by the government, it is taxpayers' money. So what happens at the end of the solution? The solution should be able to be utilized within the ecosystem so that there is value for money. So that is the main aspect about that. So we don't want funds to be to come up with solutions that are not going to be effectively utilized within the ecosystem, but then also solutions that are not solving our problems within our country. ICT is applied in various sectors. It is cross-cutting, to say. So we have a number of ICT solutions in agriculture. We have seen innovators coming up with ICT solutions that help us, that help identify disease in animals. We have ICT solutions in healthcare. We have innovators in here that have developed solutions for mobile diagnostics, solutions for diagnosing diseases like pneumonia, solutions for, for mothers. We have all these products onto our market. And then we also have in finance, we have a number of fintech solutions that have been developed, and that all these solutions are being supported by their establishment is being supported by the government as well as the private sector. Then when we talk about governance solutions, we're talking about solutions that have been developed to provide services for the public. Examples are, say, solutions like the online business registration system that is for business registration. I believe that a number of us here have utilized that solution. And these are ICT solutions. So this is just to give us an example of how ICT is cross-cutting, and that is why we have the multi-stakeholder representation within this room. We have people with different disciplines in terms of sectors, but also in terms of areas. So we have already said that there is alignment with the Vision 2040, NDP 3, then the Sustainable Development Goal, especially Goal 9, that is lined with ensuring inclusive innovation and development, as well as the regional frameworks that have been established. Why are we throwing light on this? We want to see that as Uganda is advancing, we have seen that the ICT sector we've had from Commissioner Watasa, he mentioned that the ICT sector is growing at a rate of 14%. And then it is actually contributing to 9% of the of the GDP within our country. These figures help us understand and appreciate the effort as to which we are putting into this sector to ensure that it can contribute to the development, to the economic development of the country, but as well as employ more people. We've got the figures to do with employment, over 1.4 million people being employed within the ICT sector annually. I think those are very good digits, and that is the reason as to why we need to appreciate ICT, and when we are putting in more efforts to identify different areas in which we can have more solutions for technical advancement, as well as the growth of our country. Going back to intellectual property, we have frameworks in place that have already been developed to strengthen and provide guidance for the IP sector within our country. So the different acts, the different memberships to the director has already mentioned about the World Intellectual Property Organization and the report. We have already established membership. So when he says that you don't have to go to Japan, for example, for you to have your solution recognized and registered, we already have linkages through our National IP Office. So this is very important for us to, and we need to appreciate the fact that work has already been done and that the frameworks have been established to ensure that there is growth within the ecosystem. So our guidelines are not diversifying from these frameworks, and the studies were done and the research was done, and they are aligned directly to the existing frameworks. Moving on to the different aspects of intellectual property that we find in ICT. We'll start with the one that is, when you look at our ecosystem, the one that our people normally utilize is the copyright. And there are two words that normally, when you talk about intellectual property within our ecosystem, there are two words that normally come up when you're talking to an innovator, when you're talking to an entrepreneur. They talk about the copyright and then they talk about the patent. And then sometimes they use them interchangeably. So just to throw more light, in terms of ICT solutions for innovators, entrepreneurs that are dealing with development of databases, software, websites, those ones will be eligible for copyright registration because these are literal and artistic works. So do they require registration? Because this question always comes up again. No, they do not require registration. But for proper enforcement, we encourage that you register because you cannot enforce what you cannot own. You cannot claim to own if you do not have ownership of the IP rights. Then we have a lot of logos on our market, logos, slogans, and all. So those ones go under trademark registrations. And what do they help us with? They help you recognize your brand. And they help your clients and consumers recognize your brand. So that when they see your product, it's the only way they can relate. It's the only way they can relate with your product and then also classify it. So this one definitely requires registration. Then in cases of, if you have confidential information, and this is normally more common within algorithms. I have my solution, and it is a large learning module, and within there I have a secret algorithm that is helping me maybe make the translation, if it is a translation application, it is making it either quicker or more accurate, and then that is your secret algorithm, and you believe that it's your secret ingredient for you to trade. It gives you opportunity to be more competitive within the market space. So these do not also require formal registration, and they basically rely on confidentiality agreements between your partners, between your employees, and within your contracts. Then we have patents, utility models. These are not so common within the ICT, but innovators are encouraged to pursue this type of protection as well. Those with innovative hardware solutions that are novel, industrial applicable, and have inventive steps can definitely pursue patents. And then also there are algorithms and technological processes that can also be eligible for utility model registration. So these are the most common ICT forms that we can identify when we are dealing with intellectual property. So now going on to our guidelines. Our guidelines are embedded on a number of objectives, but we focus on 4 key objectives. And these are basically, I'm just trying to reiterate what Commissioner Watasa has said, and then also what the director from URSB has mentioned. So, why do we have these guidelines in place? The first objective is to ensure that there is facilitation of high-level ICT innovations. We want to advocate for technological advancement within our ecosystem so that we can compete with the rest of the world. Can we have products that are fit to be put on the global market? How do we do that? Through intellectual property protection. The team from URSB will always tells us that when you register, it's not a guarantee that you will get, you receive the certificate of ownership, because it has to be examined. And why is this examination carried out? To ensure the quality, but then also to avoid duplication within the ecosystem. So these guidelines, when we encourage our innovators to register while they are pursuing different contracts and investment opportunities, we are also indirectly encouraging them to improve on the quality of their products before we put them on the market. Then the second one is to improve compliance to ICT standards. So we are ensuring that there is adherence to the best practices. As we have already, identified, and we have established memberships with the international organization, regional organizations, can we also adhere to those practices? So these guidelines have extracted sections that we believe will enable us as an ecosystem adhere and follow the international best practices as we create our local products. The third one is to ensure that there is establishment of shared infrastructure. So this is basically to enable that there is regulation. We are at the National ICT Innovation Hub right now. And as we support innovators and as we encourage collaborations and investment opportunities, these spaces, and we also have, we've been told that we've been joined by the professor from the Kabale Regional Innovation Hub. These spaces are put in place to ensure that there are shared resources, infrastructure, and then collaborative workspaces for the innovators. So the guidelines also emphasize the fact that you as an innovator, you do not have to, to work in silos, but you can collaborate and improve on the quality of your products before you put them on the market. Then the director also talked about the issue of licensing. So, and you cannot go into such engagements and agreements if you're not collaborating. So all these are encouraging us to put our products out there on the market so that they can successfully be commercialized. Then the last one is promotion of IP protection as well as promotion of commercialization. I think maybe URSB should give us targets so that we know that this is our target, and then we are measured that at the end of a certain period we have a target of having maybe 200 solutions successfully commercialized or 500 solutions successfully registered. So basically those are the objectives of the guidelines, and all this helps us achieve this guiding principle: incentivizing local talent, fostering entrepreneurship, creating jobs, and also ensuring that there is value for money. These guidelines they take us through the entire value chain of intellectual property, from creation, from ideation to creation, registration, until the end of commercialization, enforcement, and all. So the scope, as we can see, we start from generation, you're brainstorming, you're coming up with an idea. What happens? Yeah, as you're coming up with the potential IP. We will see as we go on with the presentation that there is guidance in line with, is it a new product? Are you using a third-party product? And then I will go ahead during protection. What are the different strategies you can utilize to ensure that your IP is safe? What strategies do you use for registration? What procedures do you have for the various forms of intellectual property? Where do we go? And I hope that it is now clear that registration only happens at the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. There was a time we used to have people within our ecosystem. And there is a word called, they would dupe innovators to say that, okay, well, I can also register for you. But then with the sensitization and awareness, we have tried to clarify that, and that registration can only be done by URSB. So even when you seek help, it should be with the National IP Office through the different agents that could be assisting you. Going on to utilization, they speak about the different strategies for, disclosure, commercialization, dissemination, licenses. Our roundtable discussion later on is going to speak about the aspects of the various forms of commercialization. If it is technology transfer, how is it handled? And we appreciate that there are offices that have been put in place to handle, by URSB, to handle the issues to do with technology transfer. Then, of course, enforcement, because there is a lot of risk in IP. So they also talk about the various measures to prevent infringement and ensure that there is value for your IP assets. How are we going to benefit as a country, as sector, and as innovators? We believe that with successful implementation of these guidelines, there will be reduced duplication of products within our ecosystem. Just like I mentioned, before you are claimed, before you are awarded a certificate of ownership, your application and your product is examined by experts within that area. So by the time you put a product onto the market, it has been identified as a unique product, it does not exist, but then also it is of quality. So we'll also have, started from here, we'll also have enhanced IP protection within our ecosystem. So we'll see that before you engage into a partnership, before you engage into a contract, the aspects of IP have been discussed. Is there existing IP? What are will there be IP that is generated? And that will help with the issues to do with the protection. Strategic IP use will be implied because we have the various methods that have been identified to ensure that there is, if you're presenting issues to do with disclosure, if you're going into partnerships and investments, and then as well as your day-to-day, operations within your employees and your partners. Then, of course, compliance and accountability. I think we talked about this, and the value for money, and then resource efficiency and facilitated IP access. Under facilitated IP access, it is basically to ensure that you as an agency, you have the rights that are the exclusive rights. If you're an exclusive owner, then you have exclusive rights, but then also you can trade, you can go into various forms of engagements to ensure that you can benefit more from your innovation. Moving on to intellectual property management, we identified these as the main aspects of, as the basics, basically. Where do you start from? When we're talking about IP, before you actually, when you're still in ideation stage, that part where we say from generation to enforcement, ideation stage, yeah? What kind of intellectual property do you have before you engage, or as you're coming up with your solution? It's a health innovation solution. You're coming up with with a model that is going to help us identify the early stages detection of say malaria, detection of malaria when it's still in its early stages. So identify what is already into existing, so that as you're coming up with a solution, it is something that is going to contribute to the advancement of the technology. So you assess your current IP, but also the IP within the ecosystem. And there are lots of databases that are available, both national and international, to help you assess. So this is both in-house, but then also external. Then the issue that fits into you making sure that your idea is unique, and then you create a portfolio, because after you have identified this is what is in place, then you need to keep a log of your generated IP so that you can go into successful commercialization. So and the issue to do with you contracting. Contracting could be internal as well, but as well as external contract. But then you're supposed to handle intellectual property both internally and also externally within your employees, within your partners, and then also externally with the additional partners that you have brought on board. So before we go on to government-owned IP, I want to ask only 2 or 3 people a question. Should government own IP? What do you think? So you say yes or no, and you give us briefly the reason why.
It's good government own IP, and one of the key reasons is that with the resource pass that government has, it has a better opportunity to actually commercialize this IP through different modalities like PPPs. So it's good because there will be a shared benefit to different partners.
Thank you very much. Should government own IP?
Yes, because nationally there is an international, because we want later to file patents, and without IP we are not doing well. But also backing on the resource pass question is that R&D is what investment of research and development is what is going to enable government to, which government really is the biggest spender in research and development, that will enable it to have key areas that they see valuable position for IP. Briefly, UK Innovation Report shows the various IP rankings by country. It shows the ranking China has in various sectors, the same as US, shows what UK has. So therefore, it should be strategic imperative for a country to own IP.
Thank you very much. We don't have any no's. We are not anti.
Thank you so much. I would also support government to own IP. One of the reasons is once owns it, access to what has been protected is very easy, because it will give it access to all the public. Number two, there are some which are security issues. So once it is protected, then the government has control over it. And then protection of the indigenous knowledge. Some innovations have indigenous knowledge. In order to protect it, then the government must take control.
Thank you very much.
I'd say yes, but with a caveat. Yes, government should own IP for national critical systems or software where you have national security, especially systems that relate to software. No, because if you want to encourage innovation, then you must have the public sector be competitive when it comes to creation of systems and software for non-national security sensitive sectors. So I'd say yes.
Yes and no. The last one, oh, that was it. Okay. Yeah, so thank you very much for those contributions. They are all very correct. And these are the various factors under which government owns IP. Government does not come and find you with your solution successfully implemented, and then you already have your clients, and then you can take custody of your solution. No. But there are factors under which government owns the IP. Just like Kenneth has mentioned, if it is for development within the ecosystem, there are instances where it would be beneficial as a public good for it to be private sector, to have private sector ownership. So, instances where government owns IP are, for example, if the IP in the software is essential part of delivering core government services. I'll give the instances where these products are handling sensitive,